What would Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. say? Thanks for joining us for Khari Free at Last on Bounce23 TV. I'm Khari in Ahara. If he were alive today, what would Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. say about black people in America? What would the great man say about President Obama, the black family, the black community, and the black church? Would we see a big smile from ear to ear or non-stop gushing of teardrops? Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Irv Jallow and Donella Martin Braddox. Donella Martin Braddox, what would Dr. King say about the condition of black people in 2014 if he were alive today?
I think Dr. King would definitely have some questions as to everything that he strove for, everything that he suffered, and to see the plight of black people today where we have over 70% of black children that are being born into poverty. This is not the dream. This is not the dream that Dr. King and so many people died
70% of black children are born into poverty?
Into poverty.
Where's that data come from?
That data comes from the National Data Statistics on Poverty in America.
And it said 70% of black children
70%,
are born into poverty.
70%.
Would Dr. King be smiling today, Irv Jallow, or would we see gushes of teardrops?
He would be crying. He would be crying, weeping uncontrollably.
Why?
Because he would look at the children first. He has children of his own, and that was not the dream that he left for not just his children, but the children of the world. Come on, look at our babies.
I'm confused, Donella. What is the dream?
Well, you know, let's talk about the dream for a minute.
What is
First
it?
of all, Dr. King's legacy, his whole entire life has been reduced to, I have a dream.
Right.
That was not his life. And as a matter of fact, I'm a little offended because it really takes away from all of the things that he accomplished. We've reduced Dr. King to a symbol like a Messiah, like a benign Jesus figure. And whenever you think about Dr. King, it's all, I have a dream, when he was much more than that.
But you still haven't told me what the dream is.
The dream is for racial equality, for everyone to have a superior quality of life, as was promised in the American Constitution.
Is that the dream?
I think it was. I think it was separate but equal. Let's separate, but let's have the quality things that everybody else has.
Separate?
When you come separate but equal.
Separate but equal is what I'm saying is, yes, separate but equal. We're separate, but we have everything that we need, just as the outskirts and everybody else has.
That's segregation. That's segregation.
Isn't that what Dr. King fought for?
Yes.
He fought against.
I don't think we sat at lunch counters and got our heads beaten in so we could have separate but equal.
Listen, I'm not saying, you're talking about integration. You're talking about integration. You're talking about coming in and everybody is being, you know, integrated and everybody's getting along and being happy.
And is that not what Dr. King marched for?
Yes, but that's not, is that our reality today? Still again, is that our reality? He said at the end of his life, at the end of his situation, that, you know, I fear I have led my people into a burning house.
Wait a minute.
Yes, absolutely. So I think in the end, he realized this is not where, this is not where I wanted to go.
Why didn't he turn around and march for segregation
Because I
then?
think that at the end, he didn't have the opportunity to come and do a turnaround. He was killed.
So then what was his dream? Separate but equal?
I think his dream was to see us equal.
Separate but equal.
But separate. Okay, Earth, my sister, I can't get with you on that. I can't get with you on that.
Okay, so if you can't get with me on that, if that is the case, do you think that we did better when we were separate, when we had Black Wall Street, when we had all of our business, when we were, you know, separate, we were doing better?
Okay, let's be clear.
Absolutely.
In the last 3 years of Dr. King's life, he moved his focus not just to integration, but he also moved his focus to relieving the standards of poor people all over.
Right.
So when he did that famous march on Washington in 1963, what was he talking about?
Probably in 63.
He was talking about integration.
Yes, he was.
In 1968, what was he talking about?
Let me tell you something. Irv Jallow has completely flipped the dream of Dr. King.
I think we should flip it.
You're talking about something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would be talking about.
And I think we should flip it.
That's not Martin Luther. No, that's not what I asked you.
Yeah,
what is the dream? Hold on for a minute, Irv Jallow.
Okay.
What's the dream?
I think that the dream, again, I'm gonna stick with what I said. In the end, he said, I believe that I have led my people into a burning home. I believe in the end he realized that this is not going to get us where this is not the dream that I had. This is not gonna get us where we need to be. We need to be separate.
Has integration been good or bad for black people?
It's been terrible for us. Look at us, look at our situation. You're integrated into what? You're integrated into horrible schools. Our children are not being educated. We can't even get a job. Even if you are qualified for the position, they will skip over your blackness and go to somebody who don't
come
look
on,
like you.
Donnella, you can't
Dr.
accept
King
that.
was accused of being a communist because he actually did have communist supporters who supported him early on. He was accused of being a socialist because he approved affirmative action. He approved a mandatory income for all Americans.
Donnella?
The point is that Dr. King was definitely about integration.
Stay right there. Can the black church be saved? Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. The black church is the backbone of the civil rights and freedom struggle. Today, some say the black church has lost its identity and its purpose. The Pew Research Center says young people no longer find the church important or relevant. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow and Donnella Martin Braddox. Oh, the black church, once the backbone of the civil rights movement. Now all the women go to the church, but yet the church is not speaking to anything relevant, according to the people who don't go.
Khari, let's remember that the National Baptist Conference, which Dr. King was a part of early in his struggle, the National Baptist Convention, they actually decided to pull away from the civil rights movement. They decided to disassociate themselves with Dr. King.
You're talking about Dr. Jackson out of Chicago, who led the National Baptist Convention.
Absolutely, which led to the forming of the National Progressive Baptist Conference.
But the problem is, what does the black church speak to today, Donnella? Can it be saved? Can it be taken back to where it was? Or is it a hopeless institution?
Let me tell you, with the institution of, and I've said it before, with the institution of this prosperity consciousness, which is what, unfortunately, in my opinion, today's pastors, both black and white, have succumbed to, the emphasis is all about materialism.
So young people are right. Young people are right, Earth Jallow.
I think
the church is no longer relevant.
You know,
it's not addressing the needs of the people.
It's not addressing the needs of the people. It totally is not.
Well, it's addressing the needs of the pocketbook.
Oh, well,
and basically, if your pockets are empty, you're not aligned and right with God.
How is it creating economic development for the collective?
It's creating an economic development for the pastors of these mega churches.
So what you're saying is a hustle.
It is a hustle.
It's a hustle. Is that right, Earth?
Well, it is a hustle, but it's unfortunate because, like you said, there was the backbone of the civil rights movement, and I think that if the churches got behind us today, we can make some significant changes within our community, within this nation.
For example?
One, our education. Our educational system would be totally different if the churches got behind us with all of this money that they deposit each Monday. We could really do some fantastic things for ourselves where we wouldn't have to ask anybody for help or handouts or anything like that.
And we don't even have a black bank. The churches could have enough money, you're saying, to create at least economic power. And they have not done it? Is that right?
No, they have not done that.
In what way?
And they haven't done it because all the money is held back for the churches. So you got these mega churches, like Donnella said, who are building maybe a daycare on their church premise. But if you're not a member of that church, then your child is not welcome in that daycare. Some of the churches take and they build apartment complexes. Wonderful concept. But if you know what I mean? We need to do this across the board in every city to bring us up economically.
So the church is no longer a part. So the church can't produce a Dr. King today, am I right?
I don't think so. I think the church is afraid to address the political and economic situations that really determine people's life standards.
Maybe all of them bought off. What about that?
Well, you know,
maybe they all bought off.
In this consciousness today where we have an Oprah-like mentality, it's no longer about the government or authority providing social justice. It's about manifesting your own destiny. People have become within, let me create it, let me dream about it, let me manifest it with my mind.
So in essence, fantasy.
Fantasy
with no substance.
Some people would call it personal empowerment. As for me,
fantasy.
The jury is out.
Well, you know,
wait a minute. Let's talk about this personal empowerment that some of these characters are pushing. 70% of black females right now have no husbands. Like you said, 70% of the children are growing up in poverty. No economic development in the community whatsoever. The highest level of disrespect, ill-mannered people I've ever seen on the planet exists in our community. How is that personal empowerment helping us? Talk to me.
Well, this type of philosophy is really appealing to the middle class. and it's leaving the lower class and the lower class out of it.
You mean the runaway group, the 10% runaway group.
Right, the ones that moved to the suburbs.
Now, Earth Jallow, these are the ones that we fought for to get into these schools. They have betrayed us.
Well, of course, but I wanted to definitely go back and say that, you know, you asked, why do you think that the church will not produce any more great leaders such as MLK? I think one of the reasons is because of they murder them. And I think that that takes out the fight a lot of times in people, you know, to see your leaders go down like a MLK or a Fred Hampton or, or Martin, Malcolm X.
So what value is the church right now to us? Earth, right. What value is it?
Right now, if the churches would come together and figure out a way, just get all the people together, all the churches together, and figure out a way where we can, like you said, deposit that money, start a bank. We could be, oh my gosh, leaps and bounds ahead.
This is not the church of Dr. Martin Luther King. Is that right? Wait a minute. Is this the church of Dr. Martin Luther King?
Of course not. But what the church could learn, they could take a page from the Black Panther movement, which was so, detrimental to the American infrastructure that COINTELPRO had to assassinate these leaders, had to dismantle them.
How was it detrimental?
Because what did the Black Panthers do in the inner cities of America? They created food banks to feed people. They created breakfast programs. They created after-school centers. In Chicago, they were even attempting to implement a medical center. It's detrimental because it's addressing the needs of the poor. And their needs are being taken care of, and they're being educated at the same time. If you revolutionize the ghettos, you galvanize the entire community.
Let me ask you this. Women dominate the church now.
Yes,
Is this where this self-empowerment, women's empowerment movement come from? All of that. But it's not addressing their issues whatsoever.
Right.
What do women need to do to bring the church back to where it's relevant?
They need to get up off the bench and get out into the community. Go and adopt some children to mentor and to work with. Go out there and feed the homeless.
Withhold their money?
Absolutely. Withhold the money.
Withhold their resources?
Put your money back into the community.
Tell that preacher to deal with it or else I'm gone?
Get a job, Mr. Preacher. We can't take care of you, But absolutely put that money back into the community and help these babies.
I think it would be more helpful if preachers and reverends actually lived in the neighborhoods in which their churches are in. What you usually find is in inner city churches, the pastors, they're living high on the hog somewhere else and not living in that community. So they don't have a vested interest of what's going on in the community.
So what do you want the women in the church to do to bring it back to where it was?
Well, I think what women need to do is women need to start educating themselves. They need to start educating themselves on the laws that impact their lives and impact their children's lives. They need to start coming together and forming community groups.
That's weak. Well, what do the women need to do?
They need to get up off that church bench, go out and get in these schoolhouses where these children are, and adopt you some children to mentor. Let's get in the streets and make signs and change education.
Y'all don't know what women need to do.
Well, all right, you know what, Khari? All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You're gonna make me do it. You're gonna make me do it on television.
Well, you better go ahead and do it.
I'm gonna say it. You know what? The church encourages women to marry Jesus. And so when you are focused on this figure that does not, not a person, and I'm married to Jesus, you're not really focused on the day-to-day details that it takes to improve the relationships that already exist in your life.
Bam.
I said it.
So in essence, the women don't know what to do right now. That's what you're telling me.
Well.
All right. King and Obama up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. The night of President Obama's election, the Reverend Jesse Jackson shed tears of joy. Now, I guess they were tears of joy. It's now 6 years later. How would Dr. King, Reverend Jackson's mentor, evaluate Obama's impact on black people? Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow and Donella Martin Braddock. All right, I see you breathing deeply.
That's a huge question.
You're about to get Earth Jallow started.
I'm about to get her started. Now, Earth, what would Dr. King, if he came back right now, if we were able to channel him and bring him back right now, what would Dr. King say about President Obama in terms of what he has or has not done for black people in 6 years?
He said, brother, what are you doing? You ain't done nothing. I done left you a blueprint that how to get this done. You were supposed to be the first black president that these black folks done had, and you've done absolutely nothing to address our economic instability, our joblessness. You've done nothing to help these children who are shooting each other in the street every day. Brother, what are you really doing?
Wow, is that what he'd say, Donnell?
I have to disagree.
Why?
I think that Dr. King would be very supportive and proud of President Obama. Absolutely.
In what way?
Because he's a pioneer. Every black pioneer has had to suffer abuse, and they have opened the door for other black people behind them. Anything that you have against President Obama, you cannot say that he is not a pioneer. And
Pioneer
all the
what?
Pioneer what?
Pioneer what?
black people in the White House.
Wait a minute. Just so we can get this clear.
Get it, come on, come on.
He's not the first black president. Google them. There's been 5. So he's the first one that might have actually look melanated like you. He's not the first.
Your credibility just went down
John
the drain.
Hanson is on the $2 bill. John Hanson was the first president under the Articles of Confederation of this United States. He's on the $2 bill. So there's my credibility.
I've seen him. He don't look black
right
to me.
there.
They
He's
also say
anyway.
Abraham Lincoln is black.
black. He's black.
But that
Maybe he
doesn't
just
answer
had
the
a
But she
question.
didn't answer the
You
question.
didn't answer the question. You're jumping around. What would he say?
I think he would be very proud and
What
he would be
would he
supportive.
say?
What would he say? I think he would say President Obama is a fine, shining example of how education and access to education can uplift black people, and this is what we want to see. Is this not what
that
we
what
want
he
to
said?
see?
So the HBCUs that Obama has now made it harder for the middle class, you can't even get in now, so we don't even know if the HBCUs...
30 to 40% of black
Right.
students have dropped out of black colleges
is going
under
to make
Obama.
it under
Yeah.
Obama. And as far as the education, with 70% of us being illiterate, do you really think he would say, great job on education, President Obama?
So what would Obama have needed to have done, in your opinion, for Dr. King to stand there smiling from ear to ear?
He needed to come out strong in his first 4 years. He needed to have a plan. We could have presented that man with a plan and said, here is our plan for the black community. And he could have said, okay, I can implement this, and this. We'll look at that. I'll try to see what I can do about that. But he has not even acknowledged us as a people.
Well, the thing about it is President Obama is the president of the American public. He's not the president of the blacks.
So everybody else but the blacks get the opportunity
Like
to
he's-
get out. Wait a minute.
he's not
get
the black
opportunity
king.
to get the opportunity to have gay marriage, to address the issues of immigration. Okay, to address other issues, but where are you in this? Where are we in this?
Where is he addressing the black
at
issues?
all?
Is that what you're saying?
And where-
I mean, so if we're part of this United States too, we helped build America. So what have we gotten out of this president in the last 8 years?
That's a good question. What have we gotten
you
out of
know
it?
what? The thing about it is we don't want to take responsibility for our own situations.
That doesn't answer the
as we
question.
you know where
What have we
do you
gotten
know
out
where
of it?
black people will congregate? They won't congregate in city halls to talk about the laws that affect their lives, but they will congregate at the store for some Jordans when they come out.
She
Or at
can't
the
answer
church.
the question.
President Obama's not responsible for that.
Wait. What has President Obama done for black
You know
people?
what President Obama has done for black people?
Yeah, and legislatively speaking, programmatically speaking, what has he done?
You know what? He is the president of the American public. I know what President Obama has done for me, and I'm proud to have
So
him in
we're
the
not
office,
part of
and
the
I
American
support
public.
him.
In essence,
Black folks ain't
nothing.
part
That's
of
what she
the
said.
American public.
She can't even name you what he's done.
I'm very proud of
What has
President
he done,
Obama.
Jalla?
Nothing for me in my household. I don't see the come up. I see I'm paying more money for insurance. Now, I'm already broke. Now I'm really gonna be broke because now I got $200 medical that I have to pay for my family.
By law.
By law. If I don't get it, then I'm fined again.
Or could go to jail.
Or could go to jail. So I don't see how this is economically empowering me as a black woman living here in America. What has he done for me?
And that's the question that ought to be asked. Why aren't more people asking that question, Irv Jalla?
I have no idea, but the poor are going to get poorer because when we really see this Obamacare unfold, I don't think we're going to be really happy about it.
Under this presidency, Donella, 140 million people are living in poverty in this country. Well over 100 million are on food aid or food relief. Is that Dr. King's dream?
That was started by the Bush administration.
Oh, Obama's had 6 years.
And
Give me a break.
coming. How in 6 years can he repair decades
Easy.
of bad decisions and bad choices?
You can turn it around. You don't have to
start.
correct it, but at least you can see some erosion of it.
at least,
And President Obama has not been backed by a Congress that has been supporting him. You know what? The
When
presidency...
he came in, the first time he came in, he had all Democrats at the Senate and at the House level. What
and
are you talking about?
they still fought him.
They didn't vote him. They gave him everything he wanted. He didn't want nothing for you, apparently. Right, Earth?
I don't see where he wanted anything
I support President Obama.
Well, I tell you what, I
and
wouldn't want you...
And Dr. King would, too.
I wouldn't want you in the courtroom defending him because your defense is weak.
Dr. King would also.
Is her defense weak or is it strong?
I think it's weak, and I don't think that Dr. King and the President Obama, I don't think that they would be. I think that they have set those two up side by side. You see President Obama, you see King, but their philosophies are different. I don't think they would be rolling together.
This disturbs me. This really reminds me of the whole philosophy of divide and conquer. And what bothers me is that black people tend to be so much harder on our own people. And my question is, why? Why do we do this?
Black people hated George Bush. They were hard as heck on George. They called him, wait a minute, they called him a devil. They called him dumb. They called him stupid. So when you talk about who's hard on who, black folks have given Obama a pass.
And we didn't say he was any
But
of
the
those
moment
things.
you mention something about it, oh, you're offending the black president. Stay right there. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find out what it means to me. Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. By all accounts, the level of disrespect, violence, and substance abuse is at an all-time high. Is this the black America Dr. King said would get to the promised land? Woo! Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Earth Jallow and Donella Martin Braddix.
Over here whipping me up. Get off my back.
Is this, Dr. King said, we will get to the promised land. Is this the black America that's going to get to the promised land?
I don't think so. But there's hope. There's
What
absolute
happened
hope.
to us?
What happened to us was the same thing. We fell for it. We fell for the gifts that were given us on a superficial level. We fell for, hey, when I was growing up, you never saw black people on TV. We turned to Soul Train Saturday morning, and we looked and we were happy and we did the dances, and that was the only, and good times. That was the only time we saw black people.
Out.
But now you see, it looks like blacks are very successful. We seem to have made it. So there's a lot of...
Did we get faked out, Earth?
We got faked out, and we still getting faked out, and we still falling for it.
Is this the black America, Earth Jallow, that should go to the promised land right now?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
What are we going with?
Wait a minute.
What are we going? We're not going with anything.
You
We're not
said
prepared.
no. Why?
We're not prepared.
What do you mean?
What are we going to do when we get to the promised land? What do we have to offer the promised land? Because we're tearing up this land we got right here.
Okay, white America's going to give you 16 states. Set aside 16 states. All the black folk can move there. You mean that'll be the promised land?
going.
You mean to tell me we shouldn't have that?
I think that we should have that, but I think we should also screen who going.
What do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying.
Donella talked about the divide and conquer. I don't think it's divide and conquer. I think that we all have different opinions and different ways that we look at things, but we can all come to the table and work together to get the goal done. If we stop talking so much,
so what you're telling me is that
action behind us, we would be better
You know what
off.
she's saying? She's saying black folks aren't prepared to govern themselves. Is that correct?
I don't think black people are prepared to govern themselves.
I think we are.
Because there needs to be standards. There needs to be morals. And what you have, and don't get me wrong, people are going to be calling in, oh my goodness, she's terrible. But let's look at it for a minute.
They'd be telling the truth. Listen,
when
what you just said, wait a minute, hold on. What you have just said is that black people are children. They can't govern themselves.
There needs to be a revolution of morals and values in the black family.
I think
and this is for the purpose of providing a wonderful quality of life for children and adults. When we look at the murder rates of our children being murdered on a daily basis by other black children who look just like each other, that's a moral failing. And what we need to ask is, why do our children think it's okay to kill each other?
Yeah, it's a good question. Can black people govern themselves?
Absolutely, we can govern ourselves. We are the creators and the starters of civilization. We ain't crazy.
That doesn't tell me can black people in 24...
Yes, we can.
Give me evidence.
Yes, we can.
Give me evidence.
Like I said, you said who would all go? I'm going to tell you again. We need to screen them first. Everybody ain't going to go. Just like everybody ain't going to make it to heaven, everybody can't come to the promised land. So when you give me my 16, there's a screening process.
You have not given me evidence of how we can govern ourselves.
You don't think we can? Of course. Yes, we can. We haven't been in a position right now as a leader. What leaders do we have to show that? But I believe, yes, that we can govern ourselves.
argument is weak.
I
Your
believe
argument.
we can govern
Donella
ourselves.
just slammed you on
Yeah,
that.
I think we can govern ourselves.
That's
Yes,
no
I do.
evidence. Where's the evidence?
We've governed ourselves before. We're the creators of civilization. Of course we can govern ourselves.
I
Of
would
course.
I would agree with you if you said we got black mayors.
We
We've
do
had a
have black
well,
mayors.
Well, then say
we
that.
have a black president. Come on.
Then say that.
Of course we can govern
That's
ourselves.
evidence.
Okay, evidence is you got a black mayor. We're going to go with Donnella's black president over here. We have black mayors. We have black congresspeople.
Oh, he's my president now. He's
your
my
president.
black president.
Of course.
Donella, are we ready to go to the promised land?
No, we're not ready. We're not ready, but it doesn't mean we can't get ready. And that's where the church comes in. If the church is really going to assume its role as a leader for the cultural and moral values of the people, then the church needs to do that. The church needs to emphasize, why do we have so many high rates of teen pregnancy? Why do we have so many high rates of teen abortion?
We're going to have to stop it right there.
Church might not be going.
Thanks to TalkTapeRadio.com hosts Irv Jallow and Donella Martin Braddock. And thank you for watching Khari Free at Last.